As a child growing up in the garden, I always knew someday I wanted to work at a seed company or be part of a seed company somehow. My earliest memories were either with my grandmother Bertha, who was from Mexico, or my mom and dad or aunts and uncles and cousins out in the vegetable patch, out in the flower garden, or even in the orchard, looking at the bees and the grasshoppers and planting seeds.
His folks let him have his own garden, and he was really little then, just a toddler. Well, my husband and I had a garden close by our place, a pretty good sized one, and I had planted it. He come over one day and we were walking up and down looking to see if anything had come up, and a lot of plants had, and he'd go, "Grandma, look, your carrots are up. Oh, look at your beets." And I thought, wow, this kid, he knows his stuff. And he does. I mean, he always has. Garden has been his first love always. He followed his dream, but he never dreamed it would end up this big.
Jere's family moved to the Missouri Ozarks from Montana when he was 12. By then, his passion for seed saving was already rooted deep.
As I got a little older, I started requesting every seed catalog I could find in mail order magazines at the time. And about 9 or 10 years old is when I started getting catalogs that started talking about heirloom varieties. As I got a little older, I joined Seed Savers Exchange and started trading seeds. And within a year or two, in 1998, I decided to put out my own little price list catalog. It was 12 pages, and it had about 70 different varieties or so that we grew here on the farm.
He asked me if I thought anybody would buy his seeds, and I didn't know what to tell him exactly because I didn't know where he wanted to go with it. And I thought, well, you know, there's lots of big seed companies out there, and you're just a little boy in the Ozarks with one tote full of seed. Really, one big blue tote of seed in his bedroom. And I said, well, you know, make yourself a list of what you have that you have enough of to sell some, and then we'll send it out to the relatives and people that you know that garden like that, and see what happens. Thinking, you know, it's a good hobby for a teenager. I think Jere could pretty much handle it himself, the first catalog, although a year later it was like crazy wild.
People were all of a sudden concerned about what might happen to the computer systems in year 2000. And people started thinking, okay, how secure is our food supply? So people started ordering heirloom seeds, and that was the year we kind of got a boost in business. It was enough to, you know, build a seed store at least out of cheap lumber and recycled tin and whatever we could find in the neighborhood, as well as print a catalog the following year.
Y2K, we said, this is nice, Jere, but, you know, after this, it's gonna go back down to, you know, but it didn't. The Lord wanted it to happen. People wanted the seed. They could see just a need for it.
The country was ready for a seed explosion, for better food explosion. Of course, the internet really exploded things too. You have to give Jere credit for tapping into it.
When I started the business, you know, 20-some years ago now, I had no idea where it was going to go. All I wanted to really do is, you know, make it a hobby that could pay for itself, and make it a hobby, hopefully, that someday would become a business where I could, you know, afford to support myself, and hopefully travel a little, and but, you know, basically live cheaply. And that's still my goal. You know, it's not to get a business that we'll make a lot of money on. It's making a project that can help a lot of people, work with a lot of projects, and at the same time, you know, it has to be able to pay the bills.
Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds is a homegrown business started with just $100 and driven by Jere's love of heirlooms. Today, it's a thriving enterprise at the forefront of the international pure food movement, with its home base on fertile land at the confluence of Baker Creek and the Gasconade River.
I think the reason these old vegetables get people so excited is they tell a story. They tell a story about a culture, whether it's your culture or another culture. It also tells a piece of history about that culture. It's a living a piece of the past, and it's one of the only things that every person can have, whether you have finances or not, whether you live in the United States or you live in Haiti. Everybody can get some seed that came in their family or their neighbor's family or from a friend's family. I think that's what makes it special, is that connection to our past, at the same time kind of handing it to the future and enjoying it in the present, of course.
Jere didn't just want to sell heirloom varieties, he also wanted to celebrate them in community with others. Baker Creek held its first gathering in 2000, and the Spring Planting Festival now draws upwards of 10,000 people to the farm. Monthly gatherings on Sundays during the growing season also bring vendors and visitors to Bakersville, the pioneer village just steps from the farmhouse where Jere launched his seed business and where he and his family now live.
I met my wife, Emily, in 2006. Her and her folks actually came to our seed store, and we got talking, and we married about 4 months later. And she's been a partner in my life, of course, and the business, and has actually came up with a lot of the ideas for the buildings and the village here. And we also have now 4 children, 3 daughters and 1 son. And they also love being in the garden and working outside and, doing all these different activities and being involved.
A new decade ushered in a phase of phenomenal growth for the company. After Jere and Emily built up Bakersville, they started expanding beyond the Missouri homestead. In 2009, they opened a seed store in Petaluma, California, in an iconic old bank building in the heart of town. Not long after, they acquired Comstock Ferry in Wethersfield, Connecticut, the oldest continuously operating seed company on the East Coast. In 2011, Hyperion Books published The Heirloom Life Gardener, followed by the Baker Creek Vegan Cookbook. And inspired by conversations with other heirloom aficionados, in 2011, they also launched the National Heirloom Expo. It's been called the World's Fair of Pure Food, and it is spectacular.
When we were at an event in New York City, actually, we also got talking to a bunch of different people at a heirloom event, and we talked about putting on an old-time kind of exposition for showcasing produce. In the olden times, like in the 1880s, 1850s, people would come together and bring their harvest together, like what fairs were originally founded as agricultural expositions. And we wanted to bring that back, and so we got talking and came up with the term Heirloom Expo with several others. We finally decided to have it out in California and Santa Rosa each year. We get about 15,000 people from around probably 24 different countries every year and across America.
This is Ruben Frias's entry. 1,491 pounds.
The 3-day event features a breathtaking display of heirloom varieties from dahlias to watermelons. At workshops and lectures, visitors connect with internationally known experts on gardening, heirlooms, sustainable agriculture, and more. There's a seed swap and a kids' expo hall, and of course a vendors hall that includes other heirloom seed companies. Baker Creek also works to draw the world closer together through collecting and sharing seeds. Jere believes that the best way to preserve heirloom varieties is to grow them.
One of the things I love to do, besides gardening, of course, is traveling and collecting seeds as we travel and learning about gardening techniques and learning about how local people in each area garden and their cultures. That's one of the things when we travel overseas. We love to visit people, learn about their varieties, and bring those back. I first started traveling in about 2002 and went to Mexico and then Thailand and Guatemala and a few other places. And now each year we visit, between my family and different employees and friends, we visit probably between 12 and 18 countries each year. And whether it's to fairs or festivals or just visiting people and farmers and collecting seeds, trading seeds, bringing seeds, and exchanging seeds and ideas, of course. So that's one of the most important things I think we do.
Thousands of regional and family-based seed companies once provided American farmers and gardeners with what they needed. But in the 1930s, as hybrid varieties took hold, private companies began to consolidate control of the seed supply, and that trend has accelerated in an age of corporate agriculture that's put the squeeze on family farms. In 1996, for example, there were 300 independent seed companies in the U.S., but by 2009, there were fewer than 100. Baker Creek and companies like it serve an important role in reviving and restoring seed diversity and security.
Along with, the importance of the history of heirloom seeds, there's also so many other issues involved. One is simply the right of people to save their own seed. So many modern seeds have been patented or hybridized that the farmer has basically lost control of their seeds, and it's in the hands of a few corporations or governments. And oftentimes these controlled varieties are actually not even as nutritious as the older varieties. The older varieties were bred for flavor, and in some cases they were bred for certain qualities. Modern varieties are not so diverse. They're oftentimes just bred for a few things like huge production, uniformity, and also how hard they are so they can ship well. They have to have a hard skin. And in the case of like corn and many commodity crops, they're genetically engineered so they can take, massive amounts of herbicides that would kill any other plant.
I think there's just maybe one in a, multi-million that are master seedsmen, because when you kind of look at the seedsmen of yesteryear, they were all innovative. They knew their craft. They knew how to attract customers. They were really special people, and I would put Jere right in that class.
From a mailing list of 500 friends and family members in 1998, today almost 750,000 people receive our catalogs. Baker Creek has a global reach, offering heirloom seeds from nearly every continent. Jere says Baker Creek's growth is ultimately guided by the open-pollinated, beautiful varieties that form the heart of the business.
There's so many different ideas continuously in a garden, you can't help but have plenty of ideas. So what the future holds for Baker Creek, I really don't know. It kind of depends on where the plants take us.